What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today, well, I'm talking about a band that I've always heard about, but never really checked them out at all until now, considering, well, this is the first album for this band in 17 years. I am talking about the latest offering from Poison the Well, Peace in Place. This also came out on March 20th, this time on Sharp Tone Records. And, well, this is the band's sixth studio full-length overall. Of course, for those who may not know, I mean, of course, I knew about the band but never checked them out, but for those who don't know, this is a Miami, Florida-based metalcore band, kind of seen as pioneers of the more melodic metalcore style, and what I mean by that is metalcore bands that incorporated both the harsh vocals and melodic singing. Like, throughout the 2000s, you heard metalcore go into that direction with bands like As I Lay Dying, Killswitch Engage, amongst many others. A lot of people look at Poison the Well as the band that started that within the metallic hardcore or metalcore scene as a whole. So this is the first one since their 2009 album, The Tropic Rot, which was 2009, and yeah, out of nowhere, we get a new album from this band, and like I said, my first time checking them out, considering, I'm a little picky when it comes to metalcore, but I'm willing to check out a pioneering band of, like, the modern style of metalcore, so I figured, okay, let's see what this is about. Holy shit, this almost feels like this was like the bridging band between the metallic hardcore of the 90s and the melodic metalcore of the 2000s. Like, they fit right in that sweet spot between, like, sounding like bands like Hatebreed and Converge and Earth Crisis to bands like Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, Unearth, bands along those lines. So we kick things off with Wax Mask. Starts off with these, like, suspenseful clean vocals and even, like, a suspenseful atmosphere, and it builds up into just vicious and heavy metallic hardcore that just pummels you right into the dirt. And one big aspect comes alive almost immediately on this album is atonal riffs and or dissonance. Like, there is just so much going on here when it comes down to these, like, nasty, murky sounding riffs that have that atonal quality or that dissonance to really make these songs feel a lot more eerie and somehow heavier than they already do sound. And that's really one of the big things that really comes alive throughout the entire album here is just this unreal, like, nasty aggression behind it. Hell, even here on Wax Mask, you get some more, like, sludgy riffs, which I almost immediately thought of, like, the new Converge album, where it's got a little bit of, like, a sludge metal quality, and there's even some of that shows up on Thoroughbreds. There's some more, like, sludgy riffs in there. Granted, you get on top of, like, a big D beat, so it almost gives you, like, a bit of a High on Fire vibe at times, because again, whenever the sludginess comes in, it kind of reminds me of, like, New Orleans sludge, or in the case of High on Fire, out on the West Coast. But yeah, like I said, when it comes to these dissonant riffs, like, there are just so many, but I will say there are even some, like, clean dissonant riffs that show up on, like, Primal Bloom, and I will even say tracks like Melted, where they bring in that clean dissonance. I gotta say, when it gets into the clean dissonant sections, kind of reminds me a little bit of Mastodon, or even Gojira. Like, it has that quality to it. Now, one of the big things about this album, and really, of course, as I brought up earlier about this band, is the vocal flip between harsh vocals and melodic vocals. You really get that flip on pretty much every single track on this album, and I gotta admit, the vocals here are really, really good. Not only in the harsh sense, like, it just comes right at you, like it's just pissed off at you. Kind of reminds me a lot of, like, Jacob Bannon from Converge, but his clean vocals they're more soothing, more kind of lower register clean vocals, not so much in the high register or anything like that. It's more low to mid range, and whenever it gets into these more melodic parts, it really makes the song stand out when it comes down to like the big heavy riffs, and then you get into these like big choruses that have a little bit more melody to it, which that is a trademark, of course, of melodic metalcore. But the way they get so heavy, it definitely feels like 90s metallic hardcore. But how they'll lead in certain songs, excuse me, how they'll lead into certain songs, really, it's different on every track. Like, perhaps some of the more standout lead-ins would be in the track Everything Hurts, where you get these smooth, clean vocals with a really nice bass line, and even vocal harmonies coming in on the chorus. I don't know if there's, like, a backing vocalist who goes along with the frontman, or if he's multi-tracking vocals to do, like, different ranges to give it that harmony, but whatever, it's really, really cool. And then as far as, like, other interesting snippets, like Awake of Vultures, this one gets a little bit more on the punky side, but it also does get a little bit thrashy. Like, thrashy riffs and beats do show up here and there, like, the opening of Weeping Tones kinda gets into, like, thrashy dissonance, kinda like early Mastodon, but as far as, like, other thrashy moments, um, yeah, Wake of Vultures, but I also really love how you get, like, thrashy machine gun riffs on top of, like, a metallic hardcore groove, which kind of almost gives it a groove metal vibe to a degree because, you know, like, early groove metal and 90s metallic hardcore do have some overlap. Namely, the band Biohazard kinda overlapped both ends of the scale. But another really cool thing about Awake of Vultures is the clean melody at the end. Kind of reminds me of Opeth, which I did not expect to hear that. But another big thing again is just how aggressive this album really gets. It is just vicious, it is nasty, it is brutal at times. But then you get to the closer, Plague Them the Most, this one, it starts off with, like, moody, clean melodies and really cool drums. Then it gets into, like, dissonant, thrashy bits, again, like Mastodon Hell. The opening of the song Melted kind of follows that path of feeling like kind of like Mastodon a little bit, but you do get some, like, bigger chugs and grooves. Even brief blast beats show up as well, and even tribal grooves. And then going back to a track like Drifting Without End, this was the most melodic song on the album. Like, for the most part, it's very much melodic and all clean vocals, except for a couple of brief snippets towards the end where it'll get aggressive briefly. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of songwriting variety going on here. Now, as far as any negatives go, really the only negative that I have is in that closer, Plague Them the Most. After the first 3 minutes, it goes into 3 minutes of silence, and then the final nearly 4 minutes of the song, because it's almost 10 minutes overall, but the final less than 4 minutes is really cool. Like, great clean melodies and clean vocals. It's soothing. You get big, heavier melodies with brief, harsh vocals towards the end, but yeah, the only problem was having that 3 minutes of silence. They could have just done something, like, briefly to lead in the first part to the last, and you could have condensed this down to, like, a little over a 6-minute track. But overall, for my first time checking this band out, I was pretty damn impressed. I'm actually gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I actually thought this was a awesome offering, and now I definitely need to listen, especially to their first album, Opposite of December, because I know that was, like, a big, pivotal developmental album for metalcore heading into the 2000s, so, yeah, this gives me hope that their early stuff is pretty cool, too. So, I would say if you're a fan of, you know, Converge, Hatebreed, but I would also throw in, like, High on Fire and Mastodon, I say check this out. This is killer. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.